Nearly a year ago, a young woman died while crossing the street in the Blackstone District, hit by a car. It sparked a series of changes to try to make Farnham Street safer.
Tonight, our Marlo Lundak has what the city says is measurable success since those changes.
Back in May, the city made temporary changes to the Blackstone District in order to make it a safer and more pedestrian-friendly area.
Pedestrians can cross, customers can cross either side of the street, not feel like they're playing Frogger.
Just 2 months after those changes, Blackstone's Improvement District president said it was working. And now there's solid data from 6 months of traffic and pedestrian studies to back that up.
We've learned a couple of things. One is that it has slowed cars down by about 5 miles an hour, which is a huge success. Anytime we can slow traffic through a pedestrian area like this is a really great thing, and 5 miles an hour is a big bite. So we're pleased with that.
The city narrowed the driving lanes, widened parking stalls, and turned the center driving lane into a turn lane only. There's more signage, painted crosswalks, and islands for pedestrians to wait in while they cross too.
It has not negatively affected the volumes through here, which we're also pleased about. We were concerned that traffic would back up too much and maybe people would avoid the area or seek alternative routes. The data does not support that has happened. So far, so good.
The changes came after 2 devastating pedestrian crashes last year. One leaving a young woman with nearly 24 broken bones, the other killing a young woman. But since the changes have been implemented, there have been no reported pedestrian crashes.
The reduction in traffic, as you can see, is measurable, and the safety for those pedestrians by that reduction in traffic has been measurable. No further incidents. We're very happy with where we're at right now.
Fitzer says he expects the temporary changes to remain in place until the streetcar comes through. Then they'll be made more permanent. On your site in Blackstone, Marlo Lundak, 6 News.
The city tells 6 News they will continue to monitor the traffic in the area, and if it's ever needed, they have more changes they could implement before the streetcar shows up.